Hi, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Ask the Knights Live. I'm Logan Path Warden, and I'm your host for yet another fantastic show about knights and knighthood and how to achieve your goals without, looking like an idiot. Okay, sometimes you're going to look like an idiot, but who doesn't? So, without any further ado, I would like to bring my guest in tonight. Hi, gentlemen. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Oh, so happy to have you guys. Thanks for being on the show. When we won't beat around the bush here, we'll just have you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves and say hi to all those lovely people out there on Webland.
It's OP, man. It's you, Zachy, baby.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jarl Ozurr, the boat giver. I'm from the East Kingdom, and it's thanks for having me on. I'm excited to answer some questions tonight.
Excellent.
I'm Ryouk of Iron Skies. I'm from the Crown Province of Ozurr, New York City. Melee is my game. Knees are my pain.
Nicely put. Well, welcome again, gentlemen, and thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. Let's just get in and have some fun. How about that?
Sure. Yeah, let's make it happen.
Right. Sweet. So the first question that I normally ask all my guests is, how the heck did you get into this crazy thing we call the SCA?
I'm going first the whole night, Ryouk.
That's what I figure. If you want to swap it up at 9:30 or 10:30, we'll make it happen.
Okay, all right, we'll take Ebsies.
It's OP, man.
So my sister was actually in the SCA before me, and I was in college, and I'd played sports my whole life, and I kind of wasn't good enough to play like full college sports, and so I was like, maybe I'll try roller hockey. Never played hockey before in my life, so like picking that up in like my mid-20s wasn't like the easiest of things. So like, I think she was just like, you know what? She was going back to Penzik. She was like, I'm gonna take you. Like, she hadn't gone in a couple years. She's like, this is gonna be like a sibling bonding thing. So what you should do is you should come to this fight practice because I feel like you would really like fighting at Penzik a whole lot. So like 6 months before like we were gonna go, she was like, here, meet these people, and there was like a local practice out on Long Island. And yeah. I started fighting, went to a Penzik, couldn't make it to a couple Penziks because I was like, starving college kid, and I was like, all right, cool. Then I got back into it and just kind of hit the ground running from there.
Next thing you know, you're winning crowns and beating the people up, huh?
This one.
Nice.
Right. So I had a far more roundabout method of finding my way home. I was a LARPer for a few years. Not to say that the SCA is not a LARP. I'll die on that hill later. But I had commissioned a suit of armor for my wife for our LARP, and women's armor is very, very hard to get made custom because women tend to not be as boxy as men. So I found an armorer who was also a woman who specialized in that, and we got to talking about spaces and sizing and all this other stuff. And I asked her, I was like, "Where'd you get your skill?" And she goes, "Well, I do this other thing." And she told me about the SCA, and I was just like, "Oh, that's really cool." And that's Lisa Draven, who runs a company called Havoc Hides, was one who made it. And she was like, "You should talk to the guy who runs my household," which was Freeman the Minstrel from Drachenwald. And I started talking to Freeman online, and Freeman is just like, come down to this thing. And I'm just like, weird man over the internet invited me to this place to go and get lost in the woods with him. Very strange. And so eventually I run out of excuses, and then I tap a buddy of mine, my buddy Tegan, to come. And I'm like, let's go to do this thing. And we're driving out, to Penzik. And it's maybe 11 o'clock at night, and we're like, are we in the right place? Are we lost? What's happening? And then we hit that space in the highway where you see the tent city for the first time. And we all just kind of inhaled with such an inhale that the fucking windows bow.
Yeah.
This thing. And then we were like, oh, well, and we never stopped coming back. It was that simple.
That
Awesome.
on our first way out, my sister actually she made me stop driving like an exit before so she could drive because she knew like that stretch was coming up for the first time where you like you see Penzic from the highway, and she was like, I love this part. So like I want you to be able to like I was like, no, it's fine, like I'm not tired, like I can make it. We're almost there. She's like, no. This is about the experience. So like also got to get that on the first way out. It's great. Love that spot.
That's awesome. Wow. So I forgot to say before we started answering questions here, to you, our wonderful audience, we do questions that I have for these fine gentlemen up until about the halfway point of the show, and then I go to your questions. So make sure you get your questions in to the comments as early as possible, and I will pick them out of there. We've already got a fantastic one from Gavin Skull that I plan on pulling out a little bit later. So don't worry. I see your question. It's a good question. We're going to get to it right about the halfway point. Alrighty. So, but for everybody else, be like Gavin. Get those questions in early. Get the good ones in. We'll have some fun. Okay. So before the show, we were chit-chatting just a little bit about why we started doing this show in the first place, right? And we came across the whole thing of peer fear, and we're trying to eradicate that in our unbelts so that they can learn better, they can get in and find a knight that they are going to mesh with, they can learn from. So you both had some really interesting things to say about peer fear. So I wanted you to share with our audience some of your thoughts on peer fear. Your Grace, you want to go first?
I'm just counting. But peer fear. So the point that I made earlier when we were talking offline was that it doesn't instantly go away the second that you get a belt. It's less peer fear, and I think it's just like sometimes it's just generalized fear of social interaction in general. It just so happens to be focused towards peers, because you think you'll put them up on a pedestal of some sort of being like, oh man, that person is Duke so and so and so and so, and they've done this and that and this, and you might hear tale of this person, for weeks before meeting them. They could be a local legend or a kingdom legend or a society legend, and so you're like, oh man, and then you meet them, and to them they are all those things, but they're also just Bob or Steve or the guy, and so they might be just as excited to meet you, because you're a new person that's eager and willing to learn something, and you're they're wow, this dude reminds me of why I started doing this. But you can have these same opposing views of it. I don't know. I made the analogy of it's if you're an unbelt, you're in the kiddie end of the pool, and when you get knighted or something like that, or you become a peer and whatever, you end up focusing in, you're cool, now I'm allowed into the adult end of the pool, and you realize that adult end of the pool is still massive, and you've just dipped your foot into the one side of it. So to say that you might take a step down, but the slope kind of keeps going out, we can all have these fears. It doesn't instantly go away. Being made a peer isn't well, now I don't fear any social interactions at all. We can still have it too. So it doesn't matter. I'm just as nervous to talk to Duke so-and-so as I am to the unbelt coming up to ask me to teach. I'm you wanted me to teach you something? Dude, all right, I might be more nervous to teach to you about that, So I don't know. I'm rambling now, so I'm hoping Ryo's going to step in at some point and take his.
I got you. Pass the baton.
Thanks, man.
So peer fear is an interesting concept to me because it's something that I've never experienced. I don't exactly understand where it comes from, but I can give you my perspective and why I have the take that I do. So my mother was a teacher. I've been in martial arts for now 26 years of my life. And this is like the 5th weapon form combat that I've ever been in my life. And when I think of peers, I think of teachers. And teachers, to me, are people that are there to help you. They're there to better you. So I don't have a fear of them or their criticisms, because their criticisms are innately meant to better me, even if they represent it poorly. And not everyone is eloquent in their representation. Some of my absolute best friends and the most insightful advice that I've ever gotten came from incredibly crass men that are about as subtle as a brick in the side of your face. So I approach it with the idea that they're not intending to do it. And I think often to one of my favorite quotes by Winston Churchill, which is that criticism is like pain to the body. It calls attention to the unhealthy state of things. So when somebody is criticizing you, it's always constructive, right? Like look for what they meant for you to improve, not the way that thing wounded you. So that has always helped me. And to speak to Ozurr's point about the pool getting deeper, I think of it the opposite, right? I think of it like a climb, like a mountain range, like you're going up, right? And the higher up you go, the more that you can survey, right? And there's a little bit of a fear that comes with the climb. But the most important thing about the climb, like the way that you deal with people in a social setting, is no matter how high you get, you never look down. So don't look down on the people that you're speaking to.
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah, I see it from both aspects. I think that I haven't run into like a real peer fear. Like social anxiety, yes, but not peer fear, because this has always been a game to me. It's a hobby. It's my favorite game. It's an amazing hobby. It's the hobby of hobbies. But I just think I was lucky enough to have situations in my non-SCA life, my mundane life, that kept me from being like afraid of people with titles. I just get excited to meet people. I'm also blessed with a memory like Swiss cheese, so that like I will meet someone and forget about them and then meet them again and be just as excited. So, I have a little bit of a benefit there, I think. Too many concussions in my past life. But so that's really cool. Like one of the reasons we did this show is to help get over that peer fear. And part of that is because I want unbelts to be able to come up to knights, dukes, whoever, and talk to them. Ask them to teach them, ask them, anything. So in that vein, how do you like prospective students to approach you? Like, is there an easy way to do it that will, get your attention better than anything else?
So I don't think that there's any specific way that'll get my attention more than others, unless it's like, you mean like, hey, do you want to fight versus like some other thing? Because like in armor, in armor, out of armor, you coming up, I'm gonna try my best to engage with whatever I have, unless like you're in the middle of running something or like doing another thing, you try to give as much time or opportunity as you can. But something that I think might make it easier for other people, and it's a thing that I employ myself to like we might think we're easily approachable. Do you know what I mean? But like that might not be the perspective that others can have of you, whether it's something that you do on your own or just whether your station in the society makes them think of, right? But like I even do this. I use my buddies, I have Ryouk. He's a very close friend of mine. He is, like he says, has never experienced peer fear. He's just really good in social situations. So I'll be like, oh, I think this person's going to be at this event, or like, I need you to like help me with like a friend of yours. Like when I was reigning, we were trying to gather allies, right? I was like, hey, I know a lot of these people, and I would really like for you to come meet them and fight them at this event, you know, like, it was cool. He was just like, hey, this is Dagar, this is Ozurr, you guys should fight. And then we fought, and fighting to a lot of us is an incredible tension easer and icebreaker, you know, like if I'm super anxious and like, I'm like, I know this person, and they just come up to me and they're like, hey man, you want to fight? Like, I'm at a adult swim and like Duke Sean is there, and I'm like, they're like, oh, I heard he might want to fight you, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well. But if he just walks up and is like, hey man, you want to fight? I'm like, yeah, okay. And then afterwards, you know, you go a couple rounds, you're like, okay, cool. Like now I can breathe a little bit, and then afterwards, it's like, it was a nice icebreaker of the fight to then be able to have like a casual conversation without all of like the pressure of seeing this person as like something outside of what we all really are. We're fighters, you know what I mean? Like we may have attained different rank, we may have been given different awards, but we're all here doing this thing that we enjoy together. So it's like, I think that an easy way is to use a friend if you need to, but break it down to that simple thing that you know we're all here to enjoy, you know, like, because it can take away some of the differences that you might see. Like, this is Duke so-and-so, they've been playing longer than I've been alive, but we're both here fighting now. You know what I mean? Like, and we're both here doing this thing together. So like, we may have different perspectives on the game and everything else, but this icebreaker is something we know we both love. So coming up, doing a fight can help ease the tension a ton. And to come approach me, come ask me for a fight, I think would be a great thing to do.
And I'll jump in real quick before Ryo that you answer. I will say for folks who aren't fighting yet, who are like they want to talk to a knight about fighting, a lot of the folks who've been on the show have basically said the exact same thing, but just say, hey, do you want to talk about fighting? You know, if you're trying to get in, you know, maybe you want to talk to them about their armor, or you know, because they have the same body type as you, or they fight with a weapon that you like. I mean, everybody likes to talk about fighting almost as much as they like fighting. So Ryo, would you like to jump in?
Yeah, I think that fighting is an easy icebreaker for a lot of people. I think it works really, really well for the reasons that His Excellency has stated. I will say that for myself personally, I think that fighting is the least remarkable thing about being a knight. I think that knighthood has to do with an entire set of virtues, and the entire reason why we value prowess is our ability to enforce those virtues. So for me personally, I like to talk to unbelts about their philosophies and views on virtues. I like to have conversations on what leads them to the path of why they think that they should be a knight, what their concepts that drove them towards a sense of duty were, whether or not they wanted to be a knight or a master. Those are the things that were very integral to me as an unbelt. And, you know, fighting is a thing that we can observe. It's a great way to break tension. It's a great way to have a conversation. But honestly, it's also a great way to learn about another person. But the thing for me is the deep dive. So I really like to have the conversation. If unbelt ping me and they're just like, hey, what's your take on X virtue? I think that will, one, tell me a lot about that unbelt, the virtue that they're holding in question, the one they have a question about. But two, it makes me think of them going forward. When we're going to have shiv discussions and people are going to come up for pollings, I'm going to remember the guy who's asking me about something other than how do I get good at stick.
Right.
You know, like I'm gonna remember the guy who says to me, you know, like, what is the difference between duty and loyalty? You know, I'm gonna remember the guy who is asking me, especially me as someone who had a hard time with the difference between courage and stupidity. Like, I'm gonna remember that guy. So I think that the fighting is a good one, but the PMs when we're not at events, especially now in COVID land, where someone goes, "Hey, I'm struggling to understand X virtue," that I'm going to remember too. And that's a pretty good icebreaker. I'm going to, at least, even if I don't get back to you immediately, I'm going to file that away. And I'm always going to get back to you.
Okay. Awesome. So that actually leads me into my next question, because we all know about the prowess part of being knighthood, or being a knight. That's a given. But what, in your opinions, makes a knight? So is it, we know you have to have the prowess, but what else defines it for you? And Ryouk, if you want to, I want you to take this one first, so we can go back and forth.
Sure. So I think that when we talk about being a knight, the first thing that we consider, the first word that I think in most people comes to mind before prowess, before anything else, is always honor, right? And the interesting thing about honor is that honor does not exist insofar except for the fact that we all agree that it does, right? Like you ask 20 people what honor is and you'll get 25 definitions. But the simplest concept is that you have a code. And then those codes need to ascribe to a certain set of ideals. Those ideals should subscribe to a certain set of virtues. So defining those virtues becomes really, really important when you're on the path, because ultimately that will decide what type of chivalry you want to become. Am I a knight who leads on the front of the field? Am I one who sits back and teaches? Am I one who expresses through the romantic ideals, like the courtly love aspect of being a knight? Like, what type of knight am I? And that is based on your code of honor. I firmly believe that prowess is the one where we start to pay attention, because prowess is the one that is the most obvious. It's the easiest to weigh, the easiest to measure. But I think ultimately it's the least important, because the value of prowess was that you are capable of enforcing the virtues that you hold dear, which is the reason why you should be a knight to begin with, is that virtues are dear to you. Your sense of duty, your sense of courage, your sense of loyalty, your sense of respect and honesty, all of these things, and then your ability to enforce them. Because prowess, this is a line that was said to me once, it was the difference between a knight and a nice guy was prowess. The way that I interpret that is the function of a knight is to be capable of enforcing this almost objective morality. Because you're able to look at a bad man who was capable of great violence and say, I need you to stop. And if he doesn't, you're capable of saying, now I will make you.
Right. But what about, say, like the courtly graces? And I'm talking specifically here for folks who want to be SCA knights. Do you find that it's important for them, along with their prowess, to have, say, maybe an art that they do? They don't have to be a master, but like an art or dancing or all those other things.
I am simultaneously the best and worst person to ask for that question. I had a grant in art before I was knighted, and I have 2 Kingdom Awards for persona representation. I think that in order to truly be a warrior, you should be a gentleman, an artist, and a scholar. That is my perspective. I think you should have an art, because I think that you should be more than a stick. You should be more than a fighter. You should be more than even the philosophies and the virtues. You should be capable of doing something that elevates you that isn't based in violence, if that makes sense. Like we very much so are capable of great destructive abilities. The ability to create, I think, is equally as important. And I extend that to things like teaching. To be honest with you, because
teaching is an art. Yeah,
to its society, and in many ways is an art unto itself. Some of the greatest teachers that I've ever known were not particularly good fighters.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But they were particularly good teachers.
All right, Your Grace, it's your turn.
Okay.
We just said a whole bunch of stuff, but
I was gonna say,
what are your thoughts?
can you reword the question for me one more time? Because I got lost in a Ryouk for there for a second. It's just you. I had an idea that I wanted to know, but he expounded a lot off of it, so I just want to make sure I'm still hitting it specific. So
Sure.
it was what we look for.
Yeah, basically the question is, besides prowess, what makes a knight? And not just a knight in the SCA, but also a knight in everyday your everyday life.
Yeah. So like in the SCA front of it, like full disclosure, like I have not been a knight for very long, So I feel like it's something that you build up as you go through things, because you think like these might be the ideals that I think that a knight should be, right? And then you're like, if somebody somebody should live up to these perfect ideals that you have in your head, right? As like your qualifications for a thing. And then like you go to good examples and like you look through people and you see and you're like, oh well, where do these levels end up going for me to be good? Because no one is going to be like maybe in my idealized version of knighthood, right? So it's like, if someone's more on prowess, do we pull from somewhere else that I let them go a little bit lower on? Like, do I bring things out? Like, where do I put my bars on through? And I felt like as I'm thinking and considering it on like an individualized scale, like not on the grand concepts of knighthood, but when I'm looking at people and I'm saying like these are candidates, like I feel on like the overall that I want like, does this person fight? Because of course, they've got to be able to fight it. But like, do I believe this person is a good person? And do I believe this person is going to represent this order well? Do I feel like I'm going to be embarrassed in the future to be like, I can't believe that I was on board with making this person a member of this order and calling them like my peer, and now they're acting such a way. And especially I think in like I was knighted, and shortly after that, like things kind of shut down. Not super short, but like I haven't had a long tenure of it, and we've been in COVID for a lot of it, and we've been seeing some poor behavior on the parts of some people from all orders and things like that. And so it really brings into my hindsight of like, would I want to be in the future thinking that I was a part of making a person that's going to do some terrible or say some bad things, or like, like I don't care how good you swing a stick if I don't think that you're like a solid person outside of that, and a person that I would want to like put my name and stake on next to, like I don't think it carries as much weight, like because I came to a point like in my fighting career that I was like, I might have traveled a different path than most people end up traveling towards knighthood. And I had thought to myself that like, I don't know. I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to say like, I think I'm a good fighter, right? Like I'm doing okay in tournaments. Like I think that I'm doing good against people that I think are very good fighters, and I'm like, I think I'm making my push, right? And I kept putting this pressure on myself of like, well, if I'm at this level that I think I'm beating knights and I'm doing good, and like if they say you should beat this amount of people this amount of the time, like if I'm not like making it there, then am I failing as like a person? Like because it's got to be some balance of those things. And I would put this on me to say like, I think I'm fighting above where I should be, or I'm fighting at a good average. The people that I think I'm fighting even with are starting to get done, right? So does that mean that they're better people? And I was like, it's got to be something. So I started to think to myself, like, I'm going to be a good person on like my qualifications of it, and I'm going to be a good fighter. And those are things that I can control, right? I can try to be like the best Ozurr that I can, be a good person and like be good to the people around me. And I can train hard and be a kick-ass fighter, right? And then at some point, I'm going to hope that the chivalry like is like, oh, okay, cool. We also see those things. But if they don't, I'm still going to do those things, you know, like I'm still going to work towards being those two things. And I kind of think that like in in a kind of like backwards way, like that's the kind of view that I want of a person that I'm going to bring in is like, I'm not doing these things because I think it's going to make me chivalry, right? Like I'm doing these things because I want to be the type of person that like I think chivalry is. Like,
You're not trying to be knighted. You're trying to be knightly.
yes, yes, and I would much rather see people that want to be knightly than that want to be knighted. And I know that's kind of like a backwards answer to the question, you know, and like it's not really super specific, and it's not like I don't know what that means in like the specific, you know, it's a very abstract concept, and like Ryouk can philosophically like and wonderfully like tell us like about these things, and I've sat down, I love having these discussions with him. I'm not eloquent enough to place it that way, so that's the way to say it. Like I want people that want to be knightly, that don't want it, like, and it doesn't matter to them if they ever become knights, because those are the type of people that are going to do the things that we need to see in the society, you know, we need to see going forward. And like I want them, like I want those people to get knighted, but I also want them to have that attitude of being like, I'm gonna be good and I'm gonna be better and I'm gonna make this whole thing better whether I get there or not, you know, because if we all have that attitude, like, hey, it'll make it way easier for us to make people peers if, you know, if
so I'm a piggyback on that real quick short thing. I think what you're saying, which is something that I wholeheartedly agree with, I would rather train the person who has the heart of a knight to have the arm of one than I would have to endure having someone who has the arm but not the heart.
See, I said he's very poetic.
Well said. Oh man, you guys are great. So I've got one more question. Actually, I got like 20 more questions I want to ask you. But there's so many good questions popping up in chat, and we are at the halfway point. And I promised that we would get to the the viewer questions because, frankly, their questions are better than mine. But just real quick, is there anything that you guys are working on personally during this, you know, the plague times and everything that is going to improve your presentation, whether it's physical training or, you know, making new garb, fixing up your armor, polishing that helm, you know, whatever, learning a new weapons form, anything that you guys are working on?
All right, I'll go first. So I bought myself.
I was like, I know the list of things you've been working on. Of course, go first.
Yeah, so I bought a kiln so I can like soup to nuts make every aspect of my kit from the alloy to the casting to the etching to the plates. So I can do everything that I've done. And the other thing that I've been doing is I've been working with you know, members of the Eastern Army for, you know, streamlining things for our war college, and I've been working with Eastern allies to do something similar to teach melee doctrines within the area surrounding, you know, Penzik, because Penzik is the show, right? And to me, melee is the most splendid thing we do. Like, I know we love tournaments, but like, to me, melee is the part where we all were great together. I've never felt glory anywhere other than the Penzik field. So I'm
we need to come out the Great Western and to Estrella.
I've been to Estrella. It's great. I've been to Gulf. It's great. I have not been to Great Western. I will be to Great Western.
Well, I can guarantee you that if you give me enough lead time, we will make sure that you have a tent and a campsite to stay in. Because every year, me and a couple friends, we have a campsite for orphans, basically.
I'm sure we can get the Eastern Expeditionary Force out there.
That would be even better. The more the merrier. We love it all. Okay, so it's time for me to stop asking my question. Oh wait, we didn't hear from Ozurr. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So I just want to say I love that you have me and Ryan because on most of the coins we're like on the exact opposite ends of the spectrum, and we are wonderful friends and super close. And actually, he let me stay in his house for a decent amount of time, and it was absolutely wonderful. We were rooming it up a little, but I am on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, which is the furthest away that you can get from forging all of the things for your own armor. Which is I'm just doing my best to like be active in any ways that I can, and like use whatever spoons that I have left to do a weekly call or a monthly call, or just try to be as active as I can. Even like I'm trying to go out and go for walks because like I've been holed up in the house a little too long. So I'm here to rep that like anything that you're doing, man. Like anyone that's out there, like it's okay. Like it's solid if you're doing everything, and it's solid if you're just here with us, just being like. Well, when and I know that like as I'm learning for myself, like SCA is like it's a lot of people's cope, like, and it's been rough times and we don't have it now. So I'm here. I'm rooting for everyone that's just doing the best they can, even if it's not doing much and just hanging out. So
True. Hey, if the least thing that you're doing out there is tuning into this show every week, that's good enough. I'm very happy with that. You can keep on doing that. All right. So before we get to our viewer questions, I'm looking at our little reactions here. And we actually have two angry reactions. Somebody either does not like me or does not like one of the two of you. That's just baffling. It's the first time that I've gotten any angry reactions, and we got two on this show. So I would like to give us all a little round of applause because
It's probably me. I mean, I'm far more unlikable than Ozurr.
Well, to those two gentlemen, I don't know why you gave us the angry reactions, but if you're still watching, we're happy to have you anyway. So I don't know, maybe it was just a joke. All right, so let's get to the.
See you on the list field.
Yeah. As long as you're not angry on the list field, right? Because we never fight angry, because we don't want to hurt our friends. We just want to kill them. Okay, so very first question I'm going to pull up here from Gavin. He shot this one up early in the show, and I saw it. It was fantastic. So his question is, how do you manage some of the unique challenges of participating in our sport in New York City? Storing gear in small apartments, limited spaces for practice, getting around with gear on, public transit and everything. Now, I will say this. I've spent a little bit of time in NYC, and guys walking around in armor is not the weirdest thing you're going to see. So, but I will leave it to you guys because you live there. You're the experts.
that's actually going to be one of the first points I brought up. Is that wearing armor on the subway? Not the strangest thing that's probably going to be going on in that subway car. And like one time I was staying at a friend's house on the Upper East Side, and we had practice in Brooklyn, and I carried my armor, which is a chainmail shirt at the time, in like a duffel bag on my back to the subway, and it was the worst thing I'd ever done. I fought in it for like 2 hours and then just wore it home, and it was so much nicer to have a subway ride back. So like I know it's not the best of solutions to things, but to be honest, like if you've got like a lower profile armor kit and like you don't even have to wear anything silly, like it's New York City. Like for that part of it, it's not the weirdest of things. But on the real of that, carpooling to practices and stuff like that is definitely a ton of things. Like if you can get a friend, like I kind of went at it the wrong way. I'm from a suburb of New York, so like I had a car from when I was like 16, like because I was out in the burbs, man. Like we drove, you had to. I'm from like 70 miles outside of the city, so if I wanted to like go there and do stuff, that was one of the main ways we did it. So I've always had that, and I've paid for it in parking and stuff. So like it's a balance. So finding a friend with a car or like someone reliable in the group, or even like I know that one of the nights in the city will often do like he'll rent like a zip car or something like that. Like those things can be super convenient if you can. Man, I don't know. You might be able to find a cool Uber driver that doesn't mind just like throwing the armor in the back and going. But being able to have someone that you can carpool with is a good thing. For A, it helps with the storage of armor, and B, it helps with motivation also. Like you're not feeling like armor, like, hey man, I'm here, like we gotta go. It's like, all right, cool. I guess I'm going to practice tonight because like Ryu's coming to pick me up, like or whatever it may be. And I for the rain specific, I have had help with this question from outside, and I'm said I have a beautiful countess who got a storage unit. Was how I was able to handle the massive influx of things when you rain, which was not happening in the 1-bedroom apartment I was living in Brooklyn. So having a wonderful person to rain with and having friends to help you out is the main point of it. Can do a lot for that.
And I will say, your raining partner is absolutely awesome. You know what? I'll just say it. She's fucking awesome.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. So good pick there. Ryu, what do you think?
So unlike Ozurr, I grew up in New York City proper. So like I didn't have a license to drive a car until I was 27. Motorcycle when I was a teenager, but car not till much later. The answer is military duffel bags. Military duffel bags can fit everything. And you know, like we expanded a little bit on the you know, no one in New York City is going to judge you. No one cares. But also the friend thing, and I really got to emphasize the friend thing, the friend in the carpool thing, especially because we're bridge and tunnel crew when we want to go to any other practices, any other places. And I've made this commentary before. It took me 6 years from Squire to Knight even. And that was $22,000 in tolls. So if those were split with anyone else, that would have been great. But so I recommend other people who are in New York City, especially if you're traveling to Jersey or anywhere else or Pennsylvania, carpool. Carpool a lot. Find your buddy who has a car. Find your friend who has a car. I'm in Queens now. So if you're in Queens, come tap me. We'll go to an event together. I'm game. That's what I recommend to you. And there's honestly trying to do everything all at once is not the way that our game works. We're a society which is collectivist by nature. And if you're already here, we're generally going to help you get on.
And
yeah. Nicely put.
And to think, like, for people in like the city area, like if you think you're having that feeling, like pretty much everyone else in that area is having the same feelings and the same thoughts. So like it might seem weird, but don't hesitate to like start bringing up if you're at a practice and you're like, how does everyone get here and not here? Because like I'm thinking that we can carpool to this practice a little bit further away, maybe once a month. You know, you start with something like that. There are guys out on Long Island that it is 100 miles ish one way to get to Nutley for them. So once a month, they'll all pile in a van. They'll all split the tolls, split the things, you know, get out there, come to the bigger practice. That's, you know, the one that they're like, yeah, we're going to go. But, you know, getting in the car, getting in the van, doing it once a month, you know, making it to that like big trek can help with that a lot.
Well, yeah, and if you're doing that kind of long distance, I mean, you want to get at least one other person so you can split the drive, you know. Even then, that's even better. Yeah, man, it's so funny. You know, I've been driving since I was 16 because, you know, and I never even ran into somebody until boot camp. As a matter of fact, I met a buddy who's still a buddy of mine today, who he didn't have a license until he was coming into the Air Force because he lived in Manhattan his entire life, and he's like, what do you need to drive for? Where like I remember as a teenager, I was just like, you know, man, I can't wait to get a car so I can actually go places. But you know, you guys have public transport, you can go where the hell you want. It's one of the things I love about New York is like, you want to go out and have a good time, you know, have a few beers.
I can literally walk down the block from my house to a train that takes me to the airport that I can fly internationally.
Yeah. That's awesome. Awesome. All right. So we've got another one here from, and I know I'm going to screw up this name, but I think it is Savava. Svava. Okay. Thank you. My question is, given both your histories as squires, what would you advise to do? I'm sorry. What would you advise do? Wait, what would you advise for having unbelts being squires? Like, what do you consider when looking at someone to take on as a squire? What do you want unbelts to do to look like promising candidates for squirehood? I think that's what they're saying.
All right, I'm going to take this one first because I don't think Ozurr has squires.
I do not have squires.
So I have two squires. The lasting joke right now is that they're both metalheads and that they have great hair.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all three of us. You know, you got to be able to do like the full windmill. The serious statement there though is I really look for two things. Which is I look for someone who has that same like spark or drive that led me to the path. Like there's a je ne sais quoi that is this person knows and understands what the path is, at least to them. That they're truly devoted to it. And then my second one is that I want to know that I can learn something from them. Because I feel like the squire-knight relationship is mutual. I want to know that I can teach them something. You know, like the interview process to me is that I know that I can be beneficial to them. And then the turnaround to that is there's a quality about them that I feel betters me too. Which I feel is true of both of my squires. Because in both of them, they're not men I consistently agree with. They are men that I am capable of perceiving at the same time as them the same problem with completely juxtaposing solutions. Which to me is the same thing that I look for a member of my order. Because I don't need an echo chamber of yes men. I need people that are capable of perceiving an issue and then challenging it and defending it. So that I look for the same thing in the squires, the same way that I look for in people that I think will be peers one day.
Excellent. Well said.
For me, like I said, I don't actually have any squires currently. So it's something that I am, it's a criteria that I'm actually like developing for myself also, like when I think like, what would I be looking for in someone that I want to take as a squire? And that's not necessarily the same as like somebody that I would take as a student or something like that. Like I would love to teach anyone, even in like more than just like a casual part, like a practice relationship, but like, I don't know what, it's like, maybe there'll just be a spark one day and I'd be like, that's going to be my squire. But like, I don't know. But the one thing that I know is important is that I don't want my squire to think that like, you have to be good at this. You know what I mean? Like it goes back to my thing on a night. Like you don't have to be like hot stick. You don't have to think that like, you're going to impress me by like killing everyone else. Like I'd much rather find a person that I grok with and that I'm like, cool. Like, I see you as a good person. I see that you want like similar things out of your SCA career that I do, that like, maybe we can have our goals going in a similar way. And like, if you're not a hot, solid fighter, like, cool. Like that's kind of my job, is to be like, yeah, I'm going to find you the resource you need to do that. So like for most other things, like I'd want a solid person, I'd want them to not seem like they're just like, oh, I need to find a knight because that's what I do to become knighted, like, nah, like I'm not, I mean, if I have a squire, I'm assuming that I would want them to be knighted, but if I have a squire and they're the type that just wants to be a squire, and is like, no, this is what I like, and like, I enjoy being in this dynamic, like, cool, like, as long as like everyone involved in the relationship is getting what they need out of it and it's balancing their needs for it, then I'm totally solid with it. It wouldn't be like a factory of like, we got to get belts on these people, so we got to make them think, because again, that goes against my like core thoughts on knighthood, like, right. I want good people that if we get there, we'll get there. You know, like I don't know. As I ramble through it again, but I don't know. When I was a squire to find my knights, like one of them was actually my squire brother. Anton was my squire brother to our first night, and so when my time came that I was looking for it again, he had a pretty solid in. We'd been friends for a very long time. He was one of my closest people that I'd known in society up to then, and it just kind of fit. And so I hope that like everyone can kind of have that experience, like and the dynamic will continue to grow. So don't think like, because it's weird, like you'd be like, oh, I want this knight to be my knight, but like. If you think that they're not going to be like your friend as the knight, like they're not in this position anymore, like you should try to like bridge that gap before making that request, like, because if you're like, oh, this person's up on this pedestal and like I'm idolizing them and I really think that they're going to be the perfect knight for me, but you don't know them past that impression of them, like you're really not getting into what you think you are. So know them as a person, like get to know them outside of events, get to know this person, because I know it's just a game and it's a thing, but you're making a commitment in a relationship to this person and to their goals and how they view the game. And if you're not clear and you begin that and you're like, oh, this seems cool, like it can end badly and it can be hurtful for people in their relationship. So just try to vet it out. Don't jump into anything, and just try to test the waters of the relationship before you go. Man at arms for like a year and a day period, I think, is a really good thing. And during that period, like, don't coast on it. Like, this is when you're finding this dynamic, this is when you're seeing like, am I cool with this? Am I not cool with it? So sorry, again, a little rambly, but that's just kind of my overall on it.
No. Trust me, you're not rambly at all. I really 100% agree with the man at arms thing. Like, I know some people, they don't like to do, the man at arms thing. And it doesn't have to be like you guys, between you and the knight, or you and the squire, you set the parameters. It could be 6 months. It could be, the year and a day, that traditional year and day. It could be longer than that. This coronavirus thing has added a little bit of time to a lot of people's plans. Mm-hmm. But as long as you are having a good time, like I said, I'm a very big fan of the man at arms before becoming a squire thing. And then because you never know how long you're going to be a squire. You could be a squire for 6 months, or you could be a squire for 10 years, just depending on what happens. You never know. So
there are no rules.
Yeah, there's
no rules. There's no way to do it wrong, and like every other relationship of your life, it's between you and the person that you negotiate it with.
Mm-hmm. And like Ozurr was saying, if you want to be a squire for the rest of your life, or even a man at arms for the rest of your life, that's fine, as long as it's okay with your knight. But like you said, that's one of those things that you got to get to know them beforehand. So yeah, I think you're both pretty dead on that. And man, it's so good to hear. So we got another couple of good questions out here, and we're running out of time quickly. So let me find it again. Where did it go? Okay, so I've got one more like thoughtful question. But before we do that, I want to throw out just a real quick question, quick answers on this one, and that is from Jacob. What are both of your favorite fighting styles? And my question would be, why do you like that fighting style so much?
So most of my fighting that I've done has been sword and shield, and from that I've transitioned to sword and buckler, and I like sword and dagger a lot too because they're very similar. But the caveat to that is I didn't have gauntlets that I felt like really comfortable doing gray weapon in for a while. And so like the thing that I felt safest, and I have a recurring shoulder injury. Like I've had 2 shoulder surgeries. I just keep on messing it up. And so like sword and shield to me was the thing that allowed me to feel most comfortable when I started fighting. And then when the shoulder got a little stronger, it was like, cool, I can branch it out, and this is a little shield, and now that I have gauntlets, man, Like, my favorite is yes. I like fighting a lot. And like I recently got to fight with Ryouk, and having him with a weapons depth and arsenal that is everything was beautiful because we got to try pretty much anything we wanted to. And so I'm gonna say sword and shield or sword and buckler are my normal go-tos, but I like pretty much most forms. Sword Florentine is my weakest because I can't really throw with my bad shoulder, but I'm down from all. Gauntlets made everything fun to me now, so I'm loving it. I'm like a kid in a candy shop.
I like everything other than shield. Shield is not my jam. I'm naturally ambidextrous, so my primary form is two sword, because two sword gives me the ability to duel against weapon and shield guys. But my favorite form, hands down, bar none, is bastard sword. I like a good 55-inch sword, no pommel, just blade, and everything about that combat form is poetry, because you must strike with your attacks and your blocks in sync. They're lined up in steps. Your katas really, really matter. My favorite fights of my unbelted career were as greatsword going over to dukes in tournaments that let me challenge up and fight them in greatsword. And even if I didn't come out on top, we danced long enough that they remembered me as a contender. That form is the least forgiving for mistakes, and in my opinion, the most beautiful in one-on-one. In our game, it's not particularly good against anything other than greatsword. But I'm going to lay this one out. If you ever see me on a field and you say, I want to fight you, greatsword, I will never tell you no.
Awesome. You need to get with my my knight, Duke Mark. You guys would have a great time. And if you want to see some really, really good stuff, it's European greatsword, and it translates over to bastard sword too. He has done a full YouTube series on the Myers treatment. It's just awesome, and he's such a good teacher because he knows how to teach. And I know that sounds dumb, but
no,
yeah. Well, so you watch one of these videos and you're just like, oh, okay, yeah. So yeah, you should definitely look those up. I will throw that, or I'll throw a link to his YouTube channel in the comments for all of you who may not have seen any of his videos. But yeah, love the guy. Okay, so one last question. Do you guys mind going over just a little bit?
Let's make it happen.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm free.
All right, awesome. So where did it go? So this is the one question that I wanted to jump on here before we got off of here, and it's from Michael. He says, "Is there anything that you realized later in your career in the SCA that you wish you had learned earlier?" Go.
I think that I'm gonna try to rehash it's probably the same thing on how you think about yourself and your path. Is being knightly and being a good fighter versus trying to be a knight was a very hard fought thought process to get through for my own personal struggles about thinking I'm good enough. And so to think about, it's just to think about yourself and your path. I said it better earlier, but basically sometimes you have to step away from the game and realize what am I having fun here? What am I doing here for fun? And then get back to those parts of it. Because a lot of times we'll be this isn't fun. This isn't giving me what I want. And we'll go to take a step away, which is totally cool and possible. And I was probably ready about to do that multiple times. And I'm glad I had people around me that were hey man, you should come to fight practice on Tuesday. And I was like, you know what sounds really good actually? Fight practice on a Tuesday. So I wish I knew earlier to be, I guess, a little bit kinder to myself as I walked the path, or as I thought I was walking the path, you know, and like finding my way through the woods and stumbling to eventually get to the path, you know, to be a little kinder to myself, and also to be a little bit kinder to everyone around me, realizing that we're all people in this, you know, like no matter rank, title, or anything like that, like we're all people. Duke so and so can still be socially awkward, you know, like they might not have blown you off. They might have just been actually still nervous himself because, you know, like it happens. We're all people, you know, and so like I guess that like giving myself and giving everyone else a little bit more of a break sometimes would have been something I wish I had started doing a little earlier on.
Nice, well said. Right?
Don't be afraid to abandon the road that you are on. And what I mean by this is I had a unit that I ran, and I did things with them, and I trained with them. And they didn't have the consistency that I wanted. I myself was injured for singles. There were lots of things I couldn't do there. I had to take time where I had to give myself breaks. Find a way down your path, and don't just keep smashing into it. Like if you're doing the same thing repeatedly and you don't feel yourself going anywhere, just try something wildly different. I started training with different people. I started reading different books. I accepted the idea that I could not change the mentalities of the people that I surrounded myself with in order to do the things that needed to be done. And I invested myself in people who were interested in doing the things that I wanted to do. Those were simple things. Like I had a practice that I ran that I still run, or would have ran had it not been for COVID, that we have here within the Army, within the South of the East. You cannot make people do things to join you on your quest, but you can do something with enough passion that people will follow. And if you keep trying to invest yourself in things that are not making you feel good about the path that you're walking, or they're frustrating you or they're upsetting you, take a moment, let go of the thing that is driving you, or the thing that you think is driving you, and reassess and be like, okay, I'm going to work on a different aspect of what I wanted that I feel is still in line, but not in a way that I had been doing. You know, like be willing to let go, assess, and then keep going. There's more than one path up the mountain. There really is. And if you focus on any one of those things, you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to look at this and you're like, why am I not here? This person was here. Why haven't I achieved? What am I doing wrong? And the answer to all those things should really be nothing, right? You just need to kind of accept the fact that you are not in control of whether or not other people are perceiving your value. And you are not in control as to whether or not other people are capable of achieving your passion. And you need to be willing to let that go. I cannot emphasize this. As a fiercely passionate person, you must be willing to let that go. Don't let go of your passion. Redirect it.
Well said. Very well said. Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show this evening. But before we go, we have a couple of things that we always have to do before we end here. First off, is there anything, book, television, movie, web show? I mean, I know immediately you're going to say Ask the Knights because, well, but anything besides this show that you would suggest to people, or that you use yourself personally when you need that little you know, medieval kick in the pants, the thing that inspires you when you're, I don't know, you're working on something, or just to get you out the door, or get that shot, that reinvigoration into you. What are those go-to things for you?
I really like war manuals from strategists and generals and philosophies. I love the Buddha Shinshu. I've of course read the Art of War. I love Maurice's Strategicon. These are things that I like to read to remind me of like why I do the war that I do. But for me, single romantic thing. I think that the Man of La Mancha's impossible dream is the single greatest oath of chivalry I ever want to hear.
Excellent, excellent.
When I normally need my little medieval fun kick is I normally hit up Ryouk, and he'll send me a cool voice message of something that sounds real awesome, and then I'm like, all right, cool, let's go do this. But
Nice.
he's nice in real though. He's always good for making something sound epic. And I use that as one time he was reading Manowar lyrics out before like the bridge battle or something like that, and I just didn't recognize him because me I was like, damn, like I don't know what's going on, but it is quite possibly the most epic thing I've ever seen. There's just a 6.5-foot samurai talking some metal shit right now, and I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening, but I'm following that guy wherever he's going.
That song is Die With Honor, by the way.
Awesome. Very, very cool. So for me, one of the things that I like to do every week is watch our sibling show, Between Two Peers. Between Two Peers, if you haven't seen it, you should. And if you're not watching, why the fuck not? What are you doing on a Friday night during COVID where you can't watch two beautiful women get a guest drunk and ask them all kinds of cool stuff? And I don't know. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. Best way to describe it is for you to go and watch it. So check them out on YouTube. The only other thing I would like to say is, please, if you enjoy this show, I know we have a few new viewers out there tonight. If you would like, subscribe, and share, and don't forget to flat snap the hell of that out of that like button, both on YouTube and on Facebook, because I mean, hell, you're not going to be fighting anything else except for your computer for a while, so get that Pell work in. All right, guys. Thank you so much once again for being here. Oh, for everyone who left a question in the comments that we did not get to, don't worry. I always ask my lovely guests if they will go back a little bit later on, get in there, and maybe throw some answers into those questions if they've got them for you. So we really, really enjoy having your questions, and we know that they're important to you, but they're important to us as well. So we will do our best to get in there and give you some kind of answer a little bit later on. The other thing. So if any of you are interested, if you are on the Between Two Peers Discord, I normally do a after show where you can just come in and chit chat and talk a little bit about the show and about other stuff if you're interested, if you have time. So if you want to do that, I will throw that into the excuse me, I'll throw that into the chat here in just a few minutes, the link to that. So thanks, guys. Without you watching the show, we would be nothing. Without our wonderful guests, we would have no show for you. So be good, stay safe, wear your damn mask, wash your hands. Hopefully we'll get out of this very, very soon, and we can all beat each other with sticks again. Right?
Yep.
All right. Good night, everybody. And oh wait, there's a thing I'm supposed to do. Where's my thing that I'm supposed to do? Oh, here it is.